Hello, my dear children. How are you all doing? I know exams are just around the corner, but don't you worry one bit. Today, we're going to look at this chapter, Filmmaking, by Ingmar Bergman. Now, I know the name sounds a bit serious, but trust me, it's a very, very simple and beautiful chapter. And together, we're going to master it.
So, first things first, who is this Ingmar Bergman? Well, he was a legendary director from Sweden, a true artist of cinema. And today, we're going to peek inside his amazing mind and understand his ideas about making movies. It's going to be fun.
But where did all this genius come from, you ask? Well, the answer is simple. It all started when he was a small boy, just like you. To really understand his films, we have to go back in time to his childhood. That's where all the magic began.
Chalo, let's dive in. Let's see how his imagination started to grow, just like ours does when we are small and dream up all sorts of stories and games. These little moments from his childhood are the key to everything. Imagine this. When Bergman was just 5 years old, he used to hide under his grandmother's dining table. And from there, he would watch the sunlight move across a painting of Venice. And you know what? In his little mind, the painting came alive. He could see the water flowing, the pigeons flying. He could even hear music coming from it. This shows us how sensitive he was to light and sound, even as a little kid.
And get this, he had this toy, an old-timey projector called a magic lantern. He would use it to project a picture of the wolf from Red Riding Hood onto his wall. But for him, it wasn't just any wolf. No, to him, that wolf was the devil himself. See? Even when he was playing, he was thinking about big ideas, like good versus evil.
Then, when he was 10 years old, he got his very first film projector. It was a small, noisy, rattling little machine, and the film was just 9 feet long. It just showed a girl waking up in a field. But for Bergman, this wasn't just a toy. Oh no, he called it his first Conjuring Set, his first magic kit. And this idea of film being magic is super, super important.
Right, so that brings us to one of his biggest and most important ideas. He truly believed that making a film is basically like putting on a magic show. It's one big, beautiful trick played on all of us.
Now here's a fact that will blow your mind. Bergman figured out that for every 1-hour movie you watch, you are actually sitting in complete, total darkness for 27 minutes. Can you believe it? That's because of the tiny blank spaces between each picture frame. Our eyes are being tricked into seeing a smooth, moving picture. It's an illusion. So, because film is based on this amazing trick, Bergman didn't like to call himself a director. He preferred to be called a conjurer. In Hindi, we would say an ek jadugar, a magician. He said that a filmmaker uses this little weakness of the human eye to play with your emotions, to make you laugh or scream or smile or feel something really deep inside. Okay, bachcho, pens and paper ready? Ding, ding, ding. Exam alert. This is a very, very, very important question that often comes in the exams. What is the connection between making a film and being a magician? So if you get this question, here is your perfect model answer. First, cinematography or filmmaking is all about tricking our eyes. Second, we are sitting in darkness for almost half the movie. Third, the filmmaker uses this trick to control our feelings, and therefore, a filmmaker is just like a jadugar, a magician who performs tricks to amaze us. Easy peasy, right? Note these points down for a full marks answer.
Okay, so if the filmmaker is a magician, where do the ideas for his tricks come from? You might think it's a very complicated process, but Bergman said it's actually something very simple and natural.
He explained it beautifully. He said, a film never starts with a full story. It starts with something tiny and vague, maybe a piece of music he heard, or a face he saw in a crowd. He compared it to finding a single, brightly colored thread sticking out of a dark bag. The filmmaker's job is just to gently pull on that little thread and see what comes out. So the journey of a film idea has a few steps. It's a bit like when you get a great idea for an Instagram reel or a YouTube short. First, there's the spark, that sudden flash of an idea. Then, that idea gets its own rhythm, its own mood or feeling. And finally, the most difficult part, turning all those feelings and rhythms into actual words and dialogues in a screenplay. Now for a very interesting debate. Are films and books the same, or are they totally different? Let's see what our magician Bergman thinks about this. This is a very cool concept.
Bergman had a very clear idea. He said when you read a book, the words first go to your brain, your intellect. You think about them, you process them, and then they touch your feelings. But a film? Oh, film is different. It's like music. The pictures and the sounds, they don't stop at the brain. They go straight to your heart. They affect our emotions directly.
And that leads us to another favorite exam question, so listen carefully. According to Bergman, which art form is the closest cousin to filmmaking, and why?
Here's your answer, plain and simple. Filmmaking is closest to music. Why? Because both speak directly to our emotions, not our brains. A film has a rhythm, a beat, just like a song does. A book, on the other hand, needs our brain to work first before we can feel anything. Got it? Perfect.
But hold on, another great thinker, a man named Umberto Eco, had a slightly different opinion. And knowing this is great for those compare and contrast type questions that can fit you extra marks.
Eco used this really fun example of a club sandwich. He said a novel, a book, is like a big club sandwich. It has so many layers, the lettuce, the tomato, the cheese, lots of different meanings and details. But a film can't show all those layers at once. It has to choose only one or two, maybe just the ham or the cheese. So it has to simplify the story. It's a great way to think about it, isn't it?
Finally, my dear children, let's look at Bergman's ultimate goal. What was the whole point of all his work? What was he really trying to achieve as an artist? His answer is truly beautiful. Bergman tells an old story about a magnificent cathedral in a place called Chartres. It took hundreds of years to build. Thousands of people, artists, builders, workers, came from all over to help build it. They gave their whole lives to this work. But you know what? Today, nobody knows their names. They all remained anonymous. And this is exactly what Bergman wanted for himself. He said, I don't want to be a famous person. I want to be one of the anonymous artists in the cathedral. He didn't care if he was making a small pillar or a big window. All that mattered was the satisfaction of being a part of creating something huge and beautiful, something much bigger than himself.
And that leaves us with one last question to think about. In our world today, with Instagram fame and getting likes and subscribers, what do you think is more important? Is it personal fame, or is it being a quiet part of building something amazing, something bigger than yourself? It's a deep thought, isn't it? Okay, my dear children, that's all for today. All the very best for your exams. I know you will all do wonderfully.